And welcome to the very first lesson of Algebra 2, solving linear equations in one variable. Before I begin, I'm going to ask you to do two things for me. One, I need you to get a paper and pencil and actually work on the problems that I'm about to show you. This is because there's one and only one way to really learn math, and that's learning by doing. Two, I need you to challenge yourself by not giving up so easily. Research has shown that the major factor to success in life and in math is grit, not a high Q, not having a lot of money or an outgoing personality, but your ability to continue in the face of hardships. And that's it. If you can do those two things, then I have no doubt that you will not only pass your class, but you will also get an A plus as well. Now, when you study solving linear equations in one variable, you're going to run across what's called properties. Your teachers are probably going to go over these four. So the four properties are additive inverse property, two, the addition property of equality, three, the multiplicative inverse property, and four, the multiplication property. Out of these four properties, the only one you really need to remember are the addition property of equality and the multiplication property of equality. The addition property of equality simply says that if you add or subtract a number to one side of the equation, you must also do it to the other side of the equation to maintain the equation. The multiplication property says that if you multiply or divide one side of the equation by a number, you must also do it to the other side as well. Again, to maintain equality of the equation. The two properties come in handy because they're part of the four-step process to solve any equation with one or two variables. So here are the four steps to solving linear equations in one variable. Now, the overall goal when solving any equation is to isolate x so that after a series of steps, x equals some number. So keeping this in mind, the first thing you're going to do is simplify each side of the equation if it can be simplified. So let's say that you're given something like 2 times the quantity of x plus 5 equals 20 over 2. The first thing you're going to do in this situation is not to jump right away and start solving for x. You're going to realize that both sides of this equation can actually be simplified. So you can actually distribute the 2 to what's inside the parentheses so that we get 2x plus 10. And the right side can also be simplified because 20 over 2 simplifies to 10, right? 20 divided by 2 equals 10. And now you can actually start solving your equation. The second thing that you're going to do is move x to one side and everything else to the other side using the addition property of equality. Okay, once again, you're going to move the x or the unknown variable either to the left or the right side and move everything else to the other side of the equation. So let me give you an example. Let's say you are given something like x plus 9 equals 10. How would we move x to one side and then move everything to the other side? Well, in this case, x is already on the side that I want, the left side. You could move it to the right side if you want, but I have a habit of keeping my variables to the left side and everything else on the right side. So the way you do that is you subtract the 9 from both sides. Remember the addition property of equality. So to keep things equal, we subtract the number from both sides. When we do that, we end up with just x on one side and 10 minus 9 equals 1 on the other side, giving us an answer of 1. Let's say you're given something like x plus a negative 9 equals 10. Again, I want to keep x to one side and everything else on the other side. I like to have x on my left side, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of the negative 9 on the left side and move it to the right side. So we do that by adding 9 to both sides. Okay? Notice we are simply doing the opposite of whatever the number is. So if we have x plus 9, we're subtracting 9 from the left side and the right side. Here we have negative 9, so we add 9 to both sides. So when we do that, we end up with just x on the left, and 10 plus 9 is 19, giving us an answer of 19. And number 3, after you move your x to one side and everything else to the other side, you're going to isolate x by using the multiplicative property of equality. The multiplication property of equality is essentially how we isolate the variable from the coefficient in front of it. So let's say you have something like 3x equals 15. The way we get rid of the 3, so again, our goal here is to isolate x and be left with an answer on the right side. The way that we get rid of this 3 in front of the x is to multiply both sides by the inverse of 3. So the inverse of 3 is what? 1/3. So we're going to multiply both sides by 1/3. When we do that, so 1/3 times 3 is 1, okay? And 1x is the same thing as just x. So basically, we're canceling this stuff out, and we're left with x, just x on the left side. And then here we have 15 over 1 times 1 over 3. If you cross simplify, okay, 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 15 5 times. We get 5 over 1, or 5. Therefore, our answer is 5. Okay, notice we've isolated x to being all by itself on the left side and the answer on the right side. Let's try another example where we isolate x. So let's say we have something like 3/9 times x equals 27. Again, we want to get rid of this coefficient in front of the x by multiplying both sides by the inverse of that coefficient, which is 9 over 3, right? The inverse is simply 3 over 9 flipped. So we're going to multiply both sides by 9 over 3. And when we do that, the 3's and the 9's cancel out, so we're left with just x on the left side. And we're going to multiply 27 over 1 times 9 over 3. Now, we can simplify because 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 27 9 times. So this is just 9 over 1 times 9 over 1, which is 81. And once again, notice how we are left with just x on the left side and an answer on the right side. That is how we isolate x using the multiplication property of equality. And the final part of this 4-step process is to check your solution. We check our solutions by plugging in our answer into the original equation. So with this example, so we had 3x plus 5, 3x equals 15. Our answer was 5. Well, when we plug 5 into x, we get 15, which is exactly what our original equation was. And I'm going to leave this example to be checked by you if you get the chance. All right, now let's move on to a little bit more of a difficult example. If you want to solve this on your own, go ahead and pause the video and try this on your own. Okay, let's go ahead and solve this. So here we have negative 2 times a quantity of 5x minus 2 minus 10x equals 2 times the quantity of 1 plus 2x plus 2. So all we're going to do is basically apply the four-step process to solve this problem. The first thing we do, as we discussed, is we simplify if it can be simplified. And as you can see, on the left side and the right side, what do we have? We have a product where one of the products is within a parentheses, which means it can be simplified. So let's go ahead and distribute and simplify. So negative 2 times 5x is negative 10x. Negative 2 times negative 2 is plus 4. And then we just have 10x equals 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2x is 4x. So we have plus 4x and then plus 2. And as you can see, we can further simplify both sides because we can combine like terms. So here we have negative 10x and negative 10x, which is negative 20x plus 4. On the right, we have 4x plus 4. And now we can begin to apply the second step of the process, which is to move the variable to one side and everything else to the other side. So I'm going to move the x variable to the left side and everything else to the right side. We do that by subtracting 4 from both sides. And when we do that, we have negative 24x plus 4 equals 4. And I want to move this constant to the other side, right? We want our variable on the left side and everything else on the right side. So we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. And when we do that, we have negative 24x equals 0. And now we apply the third step of the process, which is to isolate the x using the multiplication property of equality. So we're going to multiply both sides by the inverse of negative 24. The inverse of negative 24 is negative 1 over 24. So we're going to multiply both sides by our inverse. And when we do that, we get x equals 0 because anything multiplied by 0 is 0. All right, so that is our answer. And now our final step would be to check our answer by plugging in 0 into the original equation. And I'm going to leave that last step up to you. All right, let's go over one more problem. Once again, if you would like to solve this on your own, go ahead and pause the video and solve it. Try to solve it on your own. Okay, so for this one, we have negative 2 times the quantity of x plus 2 minus 8 times the quantity of x plus 3 equals negative 6x. So once again, we're going to simplify. So we distribute. Negative 2 times x plus 2 is negative 2x, negative 4. And then we distribute the negative 8. So when we do that, we get negative 8x and minus 24. 8 times 3 is 24 equals negative 6x. And once again, we can further simplify. So here we have negative 2x and negative 8x. When we combine the two, we get negative 10x. And then here we have negative 4 and negative 24, which is negative 28 equals negative 6x. And now we can apply our second step to the process, which is to move the variables to the left side and everything else to the right side. And we do that by adding 6x to both sides. Now we're going to move the negative 28 to the other side by doing its opposite, which is plus 28. All right. So negative 10x and positive 6x is going to be negative 4x. The negative 20 and positive 28 are going to cancel. And so we're going to have negative 4x on the left side and 28 on the right side. And now we apply number 3 of our 4-step process, which is to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of negative 4, which is negative 1 over 4. So we multiply both sides by negative 1 over 4. When we do that, we get x on the left side by itself. And 4 goes into 4 once, 28, 7 times. 7 times negative 1, or 7 over 1 times negative 1 over 1 is just negative 7. Therefore, our answer is 7. Negative 7, sorry. And once again, I'll leave it up to you to complete the final step of the process, which is to check your solution by plugging it into the original equation. Okay? All right, that's it for now. If you need extra help, you can always get a hold of me by joining my Lazy Academy Discord, for which you can find the link in the description. Thank you for staying with me, and I'll see you next time.